Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. Happy Friday, everybody. Yippee-ki-yay. So, what are we going to be talking about this Friday? Oh, the story we tell ourselves, rewriting the narrative to change our lives. So, that's an interesting one, actually, because that is a little bit outside of the box. And it was so interesting to do this one. So, the most powerful stories we ever hear are the one we tell ourselves. Whether it's I'm not good enough or things never work out for me, these quiet inner scripts shaped our entire reality, which is so true. And we're gonna call to consciousness to become the author of our own life. How often I have heard, and I started to be cautious of what I was saying. Okay, and even sometimes I do stop myself when I'm doing this, where the internal narratives come from family trauma, failure, early success, and how confirmation bias causes us to keep reenacting old success story unconsciously, not successful, but unconsciously. Simple, powerful tools for identifying and rewriting limited belief and story of radical person change that begins with a new internal narrative. And I have heard it, and it really hurt my ears, actually. Every time I hear somebody, I cannot do, I don't have, I don't, blah, blah, blah. You see the block. You see the walls building. So somebody looking for a job, I cannot find a job, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if the right opportunity is waiting for you because the universe, God, wants to give you those opportunity. But if you're saying no, 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 well, the universe is going to say, okay, well, we cannot deliver to you because you're not available. Now, when we're looking at where we grew up, how we grew up, and what did we picked in our narrative based on our parents, that's another thing too. Looking at the patterns. Micah, it's Friday. I'm doing the doody bobber. Micah is bossing everybody around. It's noonish duty. Uh-huh. Now you know what time we're recording for today. So let's go back to the narrative. Let's go back to the patterns. Are you aware of patterns you picked up from your parents? What they're saying and what you're saying. I remember when I was, 27, 28 years old, I made a comment to myself. I said, oh my God, I sound like my mother. Well, there was a kid that was working part-time. I had a full-time job, but I worked part-time somewhere else, a few hours. And one of the employees had a kid, and she never taught etiquette to that kid. So that kid would show up, and he would see food on tables and help himself. And that had the tendency to just not go well with me. So every time he showed up, I noticed that I pushed it further so he could not reach it. And I turned around and I asked him, I said, what is the magic word? Oh, he didn't like me. And I'm like, well, if you don't give me the magic word, it's not going to happen over there. I'm not giving you the food. So I was his little frenemies because I wasn't buying any things. But I realized I became my mother. Oh my God, there is few things that's like, oh, let's look at the pattern and not repeat again. Like this one, I like it because every kid should learn to say please and thank you. But looking at the pattern of how do we act, what are we reliving, what are we picking up, what have we picked up from our youth, from our childhood, and we're repeating ourselves. How to break those patterns is to be aware of how we talk to ourselves. Are we saying, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that? Or are we embracing ourselves and acknowledging how beautiful we are, how smart we are, how clever we are, how fill out the blank? most people will put themselves down because this is what they're used to hear. So they're repeating the pattern and blocking themselves. It's the same with people when I have an interesting story on this one. I had a friend, and I say word had, and every time I talked to her, she never had any money. I don't have money. I don't have this. I don't have that. But she was going out. She was going to concert, to restaurants. She was going to do her nails. Pretty expensive, actually, to do her nails. And I'm listening to her, and I was laughing in my head. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense because you're telling me you don't have money, but you do have money to spend it and do what you wanted to do because you're always on the go, always running left and right. But somehow she never had money. This is the kind of patterns that you need to remove from what you're talking. I've talked to people that I remember that I did their resume. I'm too old. Nobody's going to hire me. I'm not qualified enough. I don't do this. And they're shooting themselves in the foot instead than utilizing their skill set they do have to do the job and really not being able to land the correct job or selling themselves short based on fears. So what are your patterns? How do you talk to yourself? How do you see yourself? That would be the first question too. Go to in the front of a mirror and look at yourself. How do you see yourself? Are you seeing yourself? Are you seeing yourself as beautiful? Are you seeing yourself as smart? Are you seeing yourself with love? Do you give yourself love? Do you have compassion for yourself? Are you gentle to yourself? You know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people, and I used to be very harsh towards myself as well. And I learned to be more lenient, more loving, more peaceful. But it's really questioning those moments and asking ourselves, what am I doing here? How things are going? What are we supposed to be really embracing in our lives? So as we are looking forwards in our life, as we are moving forward to be able to embrace who we truly are, how do we define ourselves in this entire situation? How do we see ourselves moving forward? How do we see ourselves embracing every single part of ourselves? How do we see our future? Is it always, but I can't? Or can I? Why don't we change the script? Then instead I said I can't, then I can. I am. I'm doing it. Why is it not possible to make the impossible in our lives if we stop to create those barriers? Because we are our worst own enemy at the end of the day. Well, my mom taught me that this, and that. Well, who cares what your parents taught you? You are your own self. You can create whatever you want at any given time. So why don't you start to do that? Why don't you start to change the way you talk? The more you change the way you talk, the more your outer condition is going to shift and change. How about that? How about embracing every single portion of who we are and really be the one we can be? How can we embrace our true self if we're not giving it a chance to be able to show our spirit, our soul? Why do we have to make ourselves invisible when we are visible? Why do we have to hide ourselves? Because we're afraid? Afraid of what? Afraid of somebody criticizing us? Afraid of being mocked? Afraid of being ridiculed? Or afraid that people will not like who we truly are? Why don't we have to sit down and wonder and say, if I would do this, I would be doing this, and we do that. If I, instead, then I'm doing it. I am moving forward. I'm going to embrace my true self. I am, fill out the blank. The life of 1,000 is a life of transformation. And we have what it takes to do it. So why not doing it? Why not embracing every single side of our own self? Seriously. I always ask myself this question: why don't we look at ourselves and really embrace every single part of ourselves? Why don't we start to challenge the storyline that keeps us small? Transform yourself through action, but also awareness. Why don't we bring the awareness into the equation? Because actions speak louder, yes, but the awareness and the intention in the inner language. Why that little broken record in your head and say that I can't, then we change that story to I can, I am. Even if it seems impossible, improbable, change it and see how things are starting to shift. The more positive you become, the more positivity, the more positive actions will happen in your life. It's easier to be negative because the easiest things to do is so low energy. That will come right away and bite you in the rear end. But it takes a lot of energy to move ourselves up into a more positive state. And that positive state will open the doors to your infinite dreams. So why not embracing it today? Why not doing it? You know, look at and identify your words and start to repeat like a robot. I remember their story. When I was working for a big bio company, I was traveling to, I went to different states actually, but one of them was to go to Silicon Valley. So I had to go there for a few days. And I remember when I was traveling, on my laptop, you got a cat that was getting out of the water. So it fell down like a pool. And he looked pretty much unhappy. And I put it on the front, on the top of my laptop, actually. And I had those words. It's another day in paradise. So when I went and passed the TSA, I made them laugh, actually. I kind of burst somebody else's spirit when they said they couldn't stop laughing. I said, yeah, it's always another day in paradise. And the cat was a symbolism that even you're having a bad day, it's always another day in paradise. This is what it is. So it was very interesting that I did the experiment for a month. Every time I answered the phone, anytime somebody asked me how I was doing, I say, it's always another day in paradise. I pissed off a few people. They were, oh man, they were not happy, but I could care less because it wasn't sarcastic. And I was repeating this every day. After 30 days, it came automatically. When people asked, I said, it's another day in paradise. What's up? And they were asking, I said, even in a fit, in a doo-doo, deep doo, it's still another day in paradise. I'm breathing, I'm good. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, absolutely. It takes time to shift the way we think and we speak to ourselves, especially internally. But it is rewarding. So you can find a very simple sentence you can use every day from the time you get up to the time you are going to bed. And you can use it mentally or you can say it up and loud. For me, it's another day in paradise. It is, actually. It's a beautiful day. It's another day in paradise. Does that mean that my life is perfect? Absolutely not. But you know what? It's another day in paradise, and I'm telling the universe, it's another day in freaking paradise, and I am happy and skippy. So you think about the life we're having. Think about where we are with everything. Think about how do we move forward with our lives? How can we, at the stage we are, going to be able to move into a better space? I love who we truly are. I love the fact that we can change the direction that we are taking at any given time. But we have to remind ourselves that as well. The other thing too is, what is the story in the movie you're playing in your head? Are you making it like the Little House in a Prairie? Are you making it, I don't know, like Dallas, Falcon Crest, or Days of Our Lives? Or are you more looking at a fairy tale? A beautiful, peaceful, serene fairy tale. What is your story? But remember, every time you say, I can't, you're blocking yourself. So when I'm listening to people and like, well, you know, the technology, blah, 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 I can't. Well, you can't because you are saying, no, I don't want to learn. So you're shutting off the opportunity to learn. We have to adapt to the ever-changing world. We have to adapt to our lives. We have a lot to do, actually. It's like, holy crapola. But there is one thing we can do to ease our path is to be honest with yourself and bring that awareness. The more awareness you've got, the better equipped you can navigate the raging river that is our lives. The world is uncertainty, but what we have is that mind of us, that awareness that can create the miracles we need in our lives every single day. Now it's up to you to decide how you want to live your life. Are you going to continue to spew negativity, or are you going to start to change the way you talk? One thing that I realized as well as I met thousands and thousands of people through my lives is that you can see if somebody is positive and you can see if somebody is negative, because your negativity reflects on your overall health and body. If you look like you're 30 but you look like you're 70 years old, that's a problem. With all of the cream and the mask, trust me, it's a problem. If you are 50, 60 years old but you look like 20 years younger, that tells you you're telling your story a different way. It's impacting not only your outer condition, but it's impacting your body and your health. You're aging your health faster. So for people who want the fountain of youth, the fountain of youth is very simple. It's the positivity. That's what the fountain of youth is. I like the fact that you guys could hear my dogs now when I'm saying that. It's like, holy crapola. But think for a minute. If you start to treat yourself better, if you respect your own self, your world around you is going to change. It has no choice. It's going to change. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be aware of how you talk to yourself. And give yourself the benefits of the doubt when it comes down to learn. A lot of people will be surprised when they stop to say, I cannot do it because I'm not smart enough, but reverse and say, I'm super smart and I'm learning this very quickly. How your brain is going to learn. Stop. Be your own worst enemy. Seriously. When you start to do that, your life will change for the better. Even in dire situation, there is always a silver lining. Keep it positive, keep it going, no matter what. You're always going to be rewarded at the end of the day because things will change and evolve in maybe unexpected way that will lead to further success. All my love, guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast. Universe Podcast.